What would you do if you woke up as a different gender? I know what a lot of you are probably saying right now, and I can't say I'm surprised. What do you think would happen though if a womanizer Playboy happened to wake up as a beautiful woman? Well, we're about to find out. This is 2017's Sam. Spoiler alert, while I might be giving you my opinion on the film, that's no substitute for watching it for yourself. Links to the film are in the description. And for those of you that need to hear this is just a movie. All stunts are for the sake of story and shouldn't be attempted on your own. No animals were harmed in the making of this film, and viewer discretion is advised. Meet Sam. Sam's hanging out at a local bar, and he's asking the bartender if he understands any of the women that are around. Soon his best friend Doc shows up, and he goes on even more about how he doesn't understand the sentimentality of women. Sam boasts about how there isn't a woman out there that he can't get, and Doc tries to tell him that he just needs to find a girl to settle down with. Just then, Doc gets a call from his wife who's getting a pedicure, and Doc assures her that they're still going out for dinner that night. After hanging up, Sam gives Doc his judgmental stare, and they continue with their drinks. I'm not condoning or dissing any specific personalities, but Sam is definitely one of those guys that anyone would have trouble really getting along with. He might be alright for a quick interaction, but after about 5 minutes, I'd say there's nothing to be left to really talk about. Sam's that frat bro that never graduated. The next morning, Sam heads to the office, and we can see how he really works all of the women in his life. When he heads to his boss's office, they talk about their ideas on the female gender. Seymour mentions that a woman named Lulu should be arriving to thank them for their work, and sure enough, she shows up like she heard her name mentioned. They head into the conference room to meet with Lulu, and Sam listens to the debauchery that Seymour and Lulu got into the night before. Lulu's a freak. She's not afraid to show it. Lulu's got a sex drive that people would only hope for by her age. It's fantastic. That night, Sam meets up with Doc and some other friends for a bachelor party, and as the night goes on, Sam seems to be caught up in his own drinking agenda. Eventually, Sam gets to the point where he stumbles out of the apartment, and he comes across an old curiosity shop. He's drunk and intrigued, and so he wanders into the shop to look around. Eventually, the shopkeeper shows up and offers him some strong tea. He sits him down and has a little talk about his opinion on females. The shopkeeper gives Sam a nice, random history lesson about a local, historical woman, but Sam really couldn't care less. Sam just takes it that the woman was the cream of the crop, and he tells him that women nowadays aren't made the same way. The shopkeeper thinks he just needs a new perspective on things. Sam's had enough though, and he heads on his way. In the morning, Sam wakes up as Samantha, and he seems to have a mini panic attack. After trying to figure out things on her own, Samantha rushes to Doc's office, and we find out that he's an OBGYN. She barges into one of his patient's appointments, and after they remove the actual patient, Doc listens to Samantha try to persuade him that he's actually Sam. Samantha even cuts off some of her hair to have Doc DNA tested. Doc doesn't believe her, but he's able to coax her out of the office. When Samantha goes back to her apartment, the doorman Lou stops her on her way, and this is where she finally introduces herself as Sam's cousin Samantha. That night, Samantha drinks herself silly, and Doc calls Sam's phone. When Samantha answers, he hangs up on her and goes back to worrying about Sam. His worrying gets so bad that he can't even perform with his wife. Listen, I have a best friend, but if I had a best friend like Sam, I would not be worrying about him over getting down and dirty with my wife. Look at her! She can't believe it either. Amazingly, Doc goes back to the office to grab the hair Samantha gave him, and he sends it to have it tested. The next day, Seymour bugs Sam's assistant Cynthia to find him, but even she doesn't have any answers. We see that Samantha's actually at home getting drunk and playing video games, and she doesn't even seem to care about missing work. Meanwhile, Samantha sends Seymour an email as Sam states that Samantha can handle his job just as well until he returns. After buying a bunch of women's clothing, Samantha heads to the office, and she walks around like nothing has even changed. Samantha heads into Seymour's office to talk about Lulu's account, but Seymour definitely takes this chance to hit on Samantha. After escaping that nightmare, Samantha heads to the bathroom to recoup, and she runs into Margaret, the girl that Sam kept blowing off. Margaret assures Samantha that everything will be okay, and she asks if Sam ever talks about her. After a quick lie, she feels better, and everyone goes about their day. Poor Doc isn't having such an easy night though. He comes home with a bunch of flowers and good intentions of giving his wife a great night, but he gets a call from the doctor about the DNA results. This woman has been trying so hard to get a simple date night with him, but Sam inadvertently keeps messing it up. Doc goes ahead and answers the phone, and he finds out that the DNA is an exact match. After getting off the phone, Doc's wife walks out, but he's too shocked to really even notice. After a while, he heads over to Sam's apartment, and Samantha is so happy to see that he believes her now. After sitting and drinking a bit, Samantha tells Doc about what happened after the bachelor party, and Doc makes her take him to the shop. When they get there, they find that the shop never existed, and Doc has to go. This is definitely giving me some Stephen King Needful Things vibes, but without any of the horror. Actually, this movie got rid of the horror when they changed Sam into Samantha. The next day, they meet up, and Samantha asks Doc to examine her to see if he can find any of his male bits. Doc's not about that, though. Later, Samantha heads to work, and she introduces herself to Lulu. Before Lulu leaves, she makes sure that Seymour will agree to give Samantha a makeover, and he has all of their toys ready for a frisky night. After that weird interaction, Margaret finds Samantha hiding under her desk, and she comes under there to reassure her that she'll love it here. Suddenly, Seymour pops up and tells Samantha that she needs to have a makeover on the company. Amazingly, Seymour finds an even creepier way to seem like a sexual predator, and Samantha actually walks out. He's actually so forward this time that anyone he does that to could actually press charges easily. Samantha heads to the bar, and you'd think she finds better company there. Nope, she finds a guy that looks like he was rejected at a Sopranos audition, and she heads home. Once there, Samantha finds out that she's apparently on her time of the month. So what does she do? She goes to Doc's apartment while he's trying to have some one-on-one time with his wife. What follows is an awkwardly entertaining little fight between Doc's wife and Samantha that ends with him kicking Samantha out with a handful of tampons. Poor Doc. Later, Samantha heads to the office that she's supposed to get her makeover at, and she meets with Alexander. He can see that Samantha needs a miracle of a makeover, and he begins one of his hardest cases yet. After evaluating her, he meets up with her the next day at his studio, and he tells her that he essentially has to teach her how to be a girl. He makes a bet with her that he can make her a girl within 2 weeks, and Samantha agrees. After Samantha changes into a leotard, Alexander starts his work, and she really does seem like his hardest client yet. Over time, though, everyone starts to notice a difference in Samantha, and she's even working better with other women. After 2 weeks of this training, Samantha shows up at Doc's office for an appointment, and he sees firsthand how well the training went. After taking a minute to realize that neither of them is happy with this predicament, Doc points out that there is the option of a sex change if she can't think of another way to get back to normal. The idea of the surgery is enough to make Samantha emotional, and she embraces Doc. He breaks away, but Samantha plays it off as though nothing happened. Then she invites Doc to lunch. At lunch, Samantha realizes that she completely understands women now, and she demonstrates with a conversation she's eavesdropping on. Doc then asks where Samantha learned to do all of her new habits, and she mentions that she's been learning how to. I honestly thought that they would give Samantha a romantic interest to make things a little complicated, but Doc is not what I had expected. The idea of finding your best friend in a mate is something people strive for, but I'm not entirely sure that this was what they were going for. After an awkward conversation about why Samantha isn't getting as aroused as easily as Sam did, the two of them part ways, and Samantha heads to the big meeting with Lulu and her new partner. Lulu takes notice that Seymour can't help but get distracted by Samantha while she's doing her presentation, and Lulu threatens to stop tying him up, spanking him, and she'll take her account elsewhere. I'm not sure if he'd miss the tying up and spanking or her business account more. Either way, he tells her that her point's been made perfectly clear. By the end of the presentation, Lulu tells Samantha that she'll be in contact about their business, and she even convinces Seymour to give Samantha a raise and bonus. Once Samantha's alone with Seymour, she tells him to give the promotion to Margaret instead, since they've been stealing her ideas for years. When she goes to Margaret after, Margaret admits that she had a thing for Sam for years, and she knows he has a soft heart. Aw, that's cute. Now let's jump to Doc, who's getting rubbed down by his wife. Whose name does he call out thanking? It's definitely not her name. You guessed it, it's Sam's. This woman reminds me of the lint liquor woman from the old Orbit gum commercial. Now that's a classic. After running through the thought process on her own, she comes up with the conclusion that Doc is secretly gay and has been having an affair with Sam for years. After the fight, Doc heads to the park with Samantha to play ball with the guys, and Samantha insists on playing. After getting groped by one of their friends, Samantha gets in an argument with one of the guys, but after he calls her some choice names, Doc gets in a scuffle when he stands up for her. When things calm down, Samantha tries to keep things going, but Doc opens up about how his wife left him thanks to her. When Samantha gets back home, she breaks down as she thinks about all of the changes she's brought about with everyone. But soon, a knock is heard at the door. She answers to find Doc with a bottle of booze, and they sit down to drink. Samantha complains of a muscle spasm, and Doc lays her down so he can work on her back. And surprise, surprise, Doc gets a little excited. But what's even funnier is Samantha's face when she realizes why Doc just ran off to the bathroom. Not only does Doc get excited, but Samantha does too. While Doc handles himself in the bathroom, Samantha answers another knock at the door. And she finds Doc's ex, waiting to talk about her stealing her man. Samantha listens to her talk about how she's in control of Doc, and she even offers to buy Doc from her. Little does she know that Doc is listening from the other room, and when he comes in, he finally breaks up with her. Now that she's out of the picture, Doc decides that he's going to their friend's wedding with Samantha instead. The next day, Samantha meets up with Alexander to get ready for the wedding, and Doc is amazed at the woman he sees. Then, Samantha thinks about using her girl tricks on guys at the wedding, and she gives Doc examples of each one. Doc is so confused right now, and he's not even really trying to hide it. That night, Samantha pleasures herself at the thought of Doc, and Doc sits in his chair eating chips and drinking beer. When he gets a call from Samantha saying that she's downstairs, he immediately starts to clean up. But then he remembers that this is actually Sam. When Samantha comes in, she opens up about her arousal changes, and he's surprised to find out just how much it's changed. Finally, Samantha mentions that it's only around one person, and Doc loses himself when he finds out that it's him. Samantha actually gets so caught up in her fantasy that she sniffs the living daylights out of Doc and ends up cuddling him. Sure enough, Doc cuddles back and we flash forward to the next day. Samantha's completely Samantha now. There's no more Sam in there. Samantha goes back to her apartment, and she finds a letter under her door. It's from the shopkeeper, and it tells her that she has to make a choice by midnight that night. Later, Samantha and Doc go to the wedding, and night rolls in. At the reception, Samantha takes a second to talk to the bride about being friends with her new husband in order to make things work. Later, Samantha and Doc take a second outside, and he notices that something's off with her. When he asks what's wrong, Samantha tells him that she'd rather talk about it later, and they head inside to dance instead. At this point, if Samantha decides to go back to being Sam, I don't think they could really pull off a happy ending. Unless there's justice for Margaret. Margaret deserves that dinner Sam kept teasing her with. While they dance, Samantha opens up about how she knows they're both smitten with each other, and they share a passionate kiss. When Samantha looks at the time, she takes Doc outside to ask him for a ride to the shop. Now this is like a Cinderella fairy tale kind of rule. Doc gives her a ride to the shopkeeper, and she heads inside to make her decision. Doc tries to wait patiently outside, but his nerves are only eased when he sees Samantha walk back out of the shop. While they passionately kiss again in the street, the shop fades away behind them, and the titles roll. What if they end up breaking up? They're essentially betting everything that they're worth each other in the long run. Well, I guess we get to see a happy ending after all. This whole movie could have been handled in so many different ways, but I'm really glad that they did it in the tamer version that they did. We got hit with the impact of the storyline without the extra distractions that aren't necessary. Give it a shot. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.